Find other great podcasts like this one at Podmoth.network.
Hey guys, I'm Shelby, host of Addicted to Crime podcast. Join us for deep, chilling dives into the evil nature of criminals, and let's take a closer look at their early life and background to see how they got to the day of the crime. This podcast was created in hopes you pay closer attention to your surroundings and hopefully stay safe. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, or else on the website www.addictedtocrime.org. Happy listening, thanks for your time, and stay safe.
Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Kathryn.
And I'm Hayley.
And we are Saturdays for the Ghouls,
a Podmoth podcast.
How are you, Hayley?
I'm okay, Kathryn. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just,
Doing good.
Living life. Today, what are we talking about, Hayley?
Well, welcome to Spooky Week.
Welcome to Spooky Week, where we want to spook you.
Me and Kathryn are very unoriginal, so we are doing a part 3 of Urban Legends.
Technically, part 4.
Okay, technically part 4. I put part 3 on my notes.
Yeah, but we did part 3 with Janine, so this is technically part 4. It's part 3 with just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Just the
two of us. Okay.
You and I. Really, the only thing that we generally do in this episode is we scare ourselves. In these type of episodes where we find spooky things to talk about, we just scare ourselves.
Surprisingly, I did not get that scared doing this.
I didn't get that scared either, because none of my stories are like, once you know about it, you're gonna come encounter with it, and I'm like, none of mine have those. And for most of mine, 2 of them, you have to live someplace else that I don't live. Do you want to go first or last? I'll go last.
Okay. My first urban legend is about vampires. Kind of.
Is it about Spike or Damon, or which vampire is it?
Unfortunately, it wasn't the ones that either glitter, sparkle in the sun, or are hot. So,
why are we talking about him at all then?
Okay, the next story. So this is the story of Mercy Brown.
Oh, okay.
It's titled Mercy Brown and the New England Vampire Panic.
Okay.
In Rhode Island in the 1880s, there was, a tuberculosis outbreak. And everybody was getting sick and no one knew why, and what other way to get sick than vampires.
They thought that tuberculosis was caused by vampires?
Basically. In this time around Rhode Island, they started calling it consumption instead of tuberculosis. The story follows, it's a family, the Brown family. We have George and Mary, who are the couple, and they had 3 kids. They had Mary Olive, Mercy, and Edwin. The mother, Mary Eliza, she was the first to get the disease in 1884. Then their eldest daughter, Mary Olive, she got it right after her mom. 1891, Mercy and Edwin caught the consumption. And this is about when the vampire suspicion started happening, because the folklore was that multiple deaths in your family meant that you were dealing with the undead. Oh. There was undead activity or some shit going on. After Mercy died, George Brown, the father, he was persuaded to have the bodies exhumed of all 3 of them. Edwin was still alive, but his wife and 2 daughters. But one of the local doctors and all the locals, they came and they exhumed all 3 bodies. The mother and the other Mary, the 2 that died way earlier, they showed decomposition that was normal, right? Like they were decomposing at a normal rate. Just cool, whatever. Next, they go to Mercy.
Mhm.
They exhumed her body. And mind you, March 17th, 1892 is when they exhumed her body. She had died like 2 months prior to this, maybe.
Yeah.
But they exhumed her body and there was no decomp in her at all. And there was still blood in her heart. So they were automatically like, she's the reason Edwin's sick. Like, she's the vampire or whatever. So
If she was the vampire, wouldn't she keep herself alive?
you'd think.
Also, doesn't it seem like maybe it was just like malpractice from like the dead person?
Corner.
Yeah, the corner. Yeah.
The dead person.
You know, the dead person doctor.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I was thinking too. Some of the things say, I was like, if she was a vampire, don't you think that she would be gone? Maybe not in there. There were some legends say that they claim that her body like moved. It wasn't in the same position that they laid her to rest in. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they think she's the vampire. So they took out her heart and liver, they burned it, and then they mixed the ashes in water and had Edwin drink it because that was going to cure him.
Did it?
He died 2 months later. Yeah.
That's like some witch science, like if I've ever heard anything. Like these people are like so scared of like witches and like blah blah, but like that's the witchiest thing I've ever heard is you burn a heart and a liver and mix it in water and feed it to your child. Like that's
I know. I was like, people be getting hung for that.
I know. Women have been burned at the stake for less.
True.
It's just because the person who did it had a penis. That's it.
And then I just wrote like in parentheses, I was like, her body was stored in a cold crypt and she'd only been dead for like 2 months or less. Yeah. So I'm like, no shit, she's not decomposing.
Because didn't we have another case? Oh, the grave robber one, remember? Where I told you about the grave robbers and they robbed this guy who died back in like the 1700s, and they were like, this person hasn't been dead for longer than a few days, but like when they looked deeper into it, like he was dressed like from someone back in the 1700s, and he, you know, that kind of stuff, because he was in some kind of like airtight metal casket, and so he like didn't decompose like you would normally decompose.
Right. I remember. Yeah, that shit's crazy.
Yeah.
Science, guys.
Science.
That's the story of Mercy Brown and the New England Vampire Panic.
Imagine poor little Edwin. Like, he didn't want to eat burnt heart and liver. Mm-mm. And he was probably suffering so badly. And they were like, here, this will cure you. He was like, I don't want to do this. Please don't make me. That's sad.
I know. It is really sad.
And then he died anyway? Oh my gosh. All right. So my first legend is it's called the Hidebehind. This comes from American folklore. I wrote here as my little tag in case you needed another reason not to go into the woods. It's a nocturnal, fearsome critter preying upon humans in the woods. As the name suggests, it hides behind, and so it will conceal itself behind like trees or other objects in the forest. So when someone is looking directly in that direction, they'll never see them because they're hiding like stiff as a board right behind a tree. And there are some crazy drawings and like pictures of a hide behind. And it's just basically like a tree and then like this little creature thing hiding. Yeah. And so because they're able to hide behind and no one will ever see them if they look in their direction, they're able to kind of stalk their prey through the woods. So the people who are often taken are like hikers and lumberjacks and those kinds of things. And they can attack their prey without any warning. The Hidebehind will drag them back to their lair, and then they'll eat them, mostly their intestines, but they are not picky. The only thing that will help you is the Hidebehind is not like alcohol. So it is used as a sufficient repellent, and the Hidebehinds are unlikely to take someone who's been drinking a copious amounts of alcohol.
Thank God I drink.
But Hidebehinds are often to blame for like strange noises in the forest when you don't know like what's out there. Early accounts describe it as like a large, powerful animal, although technically no one's ever lived to tell them what they look like. So we're really only guessing about like what they kind of look like. And that's a Hidebehind. Now, in my research, I was like looking at like Hidebehinds in like media, and I saw that it was like on this game about Harry Potter, but it wasn't in the books of Harry Potter. Anyway, if this is anything has to do with Harry Potter, just know I don't like Harry Potter, and you're fine. If I didn't know that, and I didn't mean to take this one, but I saw something about it being in a game on the Harry Potter website about a Hidebehind, but probably more not as scary. Anyway. I didn't mean to do a Harry Potter thing, but I had already done the whole research, and I was like, I'm just going to say a disclaimer. I didn't mean to do anything Harry Potter related. I'm not a Potterhead.
Okay, so my next one, kind of creepy, but it's about a painting.
Oh, okay.
The painting is called The Hands Resist Him. It's a painting that was done in 1972 by artist Bill Stoneham. Hopefully that's right. But it's a depiction of a young boy, and there's a doll girl next to him, and they're standing in front of this like glass pane door, and it's got like handprint, like hands like all on like the door panel, like coming from the outside. And it looks creepy as hell. Like, I don't know why, like, you would want this. This is the picture.
Yeah, that's
like a creepy little doll girl.
Yeah. Is it haunted?
I don't know. It's kind of out for debate on how I feel about the painting, but other than how it's creepy as fuck. But the artist said the painting it's a picture of him when he was 5 years old. He painted a picture of himself when he was 5. The doll girl is like his escort. Like, she's going to lead him through the doorway that's like behind them. And that's representing the divided line between like the real world and the imaginary, the impossible, like the unthinkable, which is where all the hands are coming from.
Yeah.
And I guess the hands like represent all the possibilities, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, that's just pure nightmare fuel, but all right.
Right.
We first see the painting in Feingarten Gallery in Beverly Hills.
Oh.
And we're in the early 70s at this point. The artist was having like a little like solo like art show there, / auction. An art critic reviewed the painting, and that painting was bought by actor John Marley, who I didn't recognize the name, but he played in The Godfather, is what it said. He played Jack Woltz or something. There's your little tidbit fun fact. Basically, after he died, the painting went to this old brewery because that's where this couple had found it, and the couple is the one that put it on eBay for auction after the fact. They put the eBay listing up in February 2000, and in the listing they said that it's cursed. Doll and the boy move at night, like they move in the painting, and then they also said that at night they will leave the painting and like walk around the room. But yeah, so they made all these claims, and this one I thought was a little weird. The couple claimed that one night it looked like the doll was like pointing a gun at the boy, which was making the boy want to escape the painting. But yeah, so because of it being labeled as cursed and whatever, it started going viral a little bit and had over 30,000 like views on it. Everyone that was viewing this kept saying that the painting made them feel uneasy, like it made them start seeing things, like they felt like just through the screen it was like bad juju just looking at this painting, which I can kind of agree because this painting is creepy as fuck.
Have you felt a lot of bad juju since seeing it?
I just don't like looking at it. Yeah, it like makes me feel really uneasy to look at it, but I think it's just because the doll's in it and it's creepy and it's just bad aura. I would not want that.
You don't want a painting in your house?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Since the listing did go viral, also at the bottom of the listing, the couple put a liability and they were like, "We are not liable if anything happens to you," kind of thing, with the purchase of this painting. You know, typical stuff. Yeah. So it went viral, and the starting bid was $199. They got 30 bids, and the final bid was $1,025.
Okay, that's not bad for a cursed painting.
Yeah.
I know people would pay more for that.
I know. But the person that bought it, it was an art gallery called Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The person who bought it, he contacted the artist, Bill Stoneham, and explained the story and whatnot, and like what he's been hearing about the painting. And the guy was like, "What?
No,
that's weird."
Did he deny it though?
Not necessarily. He just explained that, you know, the gun thing earlier. He explained that it's a battery or something that she's holding, or it's like a battery and wires. And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But we're not going to talk about any of the accusations
that the kids disappear and it's
yeah, right. And yeah, so the guy bought the painting. He lived happily ever after for about a year.
Only a year? How old
is he? And I don't know. And the artist guy said that he can say that it is weird how the art critic who observed the painting and rated it, whatever, and the guy who bought it from the gallery, they both died under strange circumstances within a year of being in contact with that painting. The end.
Are we gonna die now? We don't own it, so I don't think we will.
I didn't rate it. We didn't rate it. Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, we didn't rate it. Yeah, we didn't rate it. We didn't buy it.
Nope. Mm-mm.
I barely looked at it. I looked at it through a screen. Through two screens.
You're extra protected. I looked at it through one screen, so I don't know.
Wow, that's scary. No one else has owned it, or it's?
I have no idea. I didn't look that deep into it.
That's weird. That's suspicious.
Suspicious.
Okay, so my next one is called the Nightmarchers.
Ooh.
Ooh. So in Hawaiian mythology, Nightmarchers are like deadly ghosts of Hawaiian warriors.
Oh, okay.
So they're like a vanguard of like a king or a chief or a chiefess. So on nights honoring Hawaiian gods like Kane or Lono or the Knights of Kanaloa, it's said that the Nightmarchers will rise from their burial sites, or they'll rise from like the ocean and start marching in a large group throughout the like island. And they start marching towards an ancient Hawaiian battle site or other sacred places on the island. Legend says that they're of normal size of like a warrior would have been when they were alive. They're dressed for battle and they carry spears Some are beating war drums or blowing on conch shells. The legends also say that they are suspended in the air, so like their feet don't touch the ground though. So they're marching like hovering over the land. And that also, because their feet don't touch the ground, they also leave no evidence of their feet ever being there. They also march after sunset until just before sunrise. People who have come encounter with it, they recall hearing chanting, marching, or smelling a like foul, musky odor. And if anyone ever comes across the Nightmarchers while they're marching through the island, they cannot like look upon the Nightmarchers, or like if they seem at all like defiant or anything, the Nightmarchers will violently kill them. So if you ever feel like, if you're in Hawaii, right, and you feel like the Nightmarchers are out, what you need to do is like lay down on the ground face down into like a position of like you're all good, you know. You should lie motionless face down, showing the proper fear is what they say. There are also other people who are like considered to be lucky because their ancestors are their ancient ancestors are marchers. So if someone comes across someone who is an ancestor of a marcher or like a warrior, the marcher will yell out the Hawaiian word for mine, and they will spare them as they march through the island.
Oh.
There's like a ton of lore about it though, in that like goes way deeper that I started getting confused. So I'm just not smart enough to go any deeper than that, but that's the spooky parts about Hawaii, I guess.
That's scary.
I know. I mean, I would be scared shitless if I saw Nightmarchers coming out of the fucking ocean. Ancient warriors just like marching out of the ocean.
I've had this nightmare before.
Right? I'm fucked. What's your last story, Hayley?
My last story is about melon heads.
That is kind of funny name.
Like it just reminds me of like, you know, like the lemon heads or like
Yeah.
the lemon sour. Yeah. Do you remember the Gushers commercial?
Yes.
Where all their heads were like fruits?
Yes.
That's what it reminds
the
me
Gusher.
of.
Yeah.
That's what melon head reminds me of. Anyway, the more actual scary part of the story. So, what do you think a melon head is, Kathryn?
So I feel like they refer to babies as melon heads sometimes when their heads look like melons. I'm assuming they're people whose heads look like melons.
Yeah, kind of right. Their definition of melon heads, they're small humanoids with bulbous heads who come out, and sometimes
they're quirky, fun, and sometimes they kill people.
but sometimes they attack people. There was no comedy at all in this, so I don't know what, they don't make people laugh or anything, but you know, I don't know what occasionally they do otherwise. This urban legend, it's mainly in Michigan, Ohio, and like Connecticut area. But they all have like a variation of melon heads.
Okay.
So they kind of all have like the same like backstory, just like a little details are changed. So for the Michigan legend, the melon heads are mainly seen around Felt Mansion. The melon heads are supposedly children with hydrocephalus, which hydrocephalus is just like fluid built up in the brain.
Okay.
Those kids are said to have lived at the Junction Insane Asylum. They were physically and mentally abused to the point where they became feral, and they were released into the woods.
What? Why?
That's part of the Michigan legend. But a local by the name of Al Meshkin, he said growing up he heard it all the time of legends of the melon heads as a teenager, and him and his friends would call them wobbleheads, I guess. And his version is that there was one version where they retreated into the caves, the children, the other version was that they had a plan. They basically planned to kill the doctor that was doing all this horrible shit to them.
Yeah.
And they killed him, chopped up but they couldn't move his body. So they chopped up his body into pieces and like hid pieces of his body around the mansion.
Okay. That mansion probably smells so bad.
I know. And there's rumors there was some teenagers that broke into that mansion, and there was rumors that they saw ghosts and that they saw like ghostly images of like the killing of the doctor.
Oh shit.
So I was like, oh, that's terrifying. But that's Michigan, right? In Ohio, kind of the same story. There's a doctor, there's children, he's experimenting on them. If I remember correctly, he's actually like injecting the experiments. He was injecting the children with fluids.
Oh,
like in
to
their
make
head.
their head melons.
Yes.
Okay.
And which caused them to have hairless, big heads and like be disfigured. And then same
And there's
story.
no explanation of why he wanted to insert water into their head. To their heads.
Nope.
That's weird.
It's just the another weird backstory that they have for melon heads. Same with the previous story. They killed the doctor, but the doctor had a name in this one. Dr. Crow, I guess is what it's.
Ooh.
Killed the doctor. They were in an orphanage in this story. They burned the orphanage down, and they retreated into the forest. And legend says they feed on babies.
Where do they find babies in the forest, though?
I don't know. That's what I was wondering. I was like, where are you gonna find babies? Why babies?
Also, like, you guys are kids. Are you guys never gonna grow up? Like, or are they just short in stature humans?
Well, it just says short humanoids, small humanoids. So I don't know.
Right. But in like the story from like the insane asylum or the mental asylum makes it sound like they're kids.
Yeah, they're all kids.
Yeah.
They started out as kids, but I feel like they just stay small. But they get older, and more not human like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you're eating babies in the woods, I'm assuming you get a little bit crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one, Connecticut one, they're in Fairfield County. There's this insane asylum for the criminally insane. It burned down in the 60s. Everyone, including staff, was basically dead and accounted for, except for 10 to 20 patients. And
small melon-headed patients.
Well, they didn't say that they were melon heads yet.
Oh, okay.
So they were just patients that escaped. They escaped into the woods, and the melon head disfiguration part came from the cannibalism and inbreeding.
Oh, so they like these criminally insane people started making people and eating people.
Yes.
And so they weren't melon heads, but their offsprings were melon heads, and their offspring.
Yes.
Okay.
And all the same lore about the melon heads. This is what's similar for it. So it's all kind of woodsy areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the legend that they tell you to look out for is don't drive down single dirt roads in the middle of the woods, because that's where they would jump out and get you.
Oh, okay. But you're in a car.
But yeah, that's my melon heads.
Okay. This is my favorite one that I researched this week.
That's why I say best for last, baby.
Okay, so my last one is called and it's got a really funny, cute name that's like, oh my gosh, that sounds like it would be so fun, right?
Yeah.
It's called a Kelpie or a water Kelpie.
Kelpie! It sounds so cute.
In Scottish folklore, a Kelpie is a shape-shifting spirit that inhabits the lochs or like bodies of water in Scotland. So it's described as like a big, powerful, black, beautiful horse. but like a water horse. And it can shift into a human form, but it's said that when they move into their human form, they keep their hooves. So that depiction of the Kelpie shifting into a human form but keeping their hooves leads it to being associating with the Christian version of Satan. Most sizable bodies of water in Scotland have stories related to Kelpies. The most prominent one is the Kelpie of Loch Ness, which is a town in Scotland, or a place in Scotland Highlands, where obviously the Loch Ness Monster also lives.
I was going to say, is this supposed to be the Loch Ness Monster?
No, this is different than the Loch Ness Monster. So the Loch Ness Monster is like, people say that it's like a more like a Pegasaurus, like a dinosaur in the ocean, or in the rivers and in the bodies of water of Loch Ness. But this is considerably mostly a horse. Okay. The origins of the story of the Kelpie is kind of unclear. In literary terms, the word Kelpie in Scottish may have originated from the Gaelic term kelpa or calapeach. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that means like heifer or colt. The first recorded use of the word was in a manuscript in an ode by William Collins in 1759, and they actually spelled it Kaelpie. Now it's spelled just Kelpie, so there was an A there. Some folklorists say that the Kelpie actually lives just beside the rivers, not in the rivers. But some disagree and say that they inhabit any body of water that they're located in. The Kelpies are usually described, like I said, as a powerful, beautiful black horse, and they inhabit deep pools of rivers, and they prey on humans that are by the water sources or by the rivers. There are a few different methods of shape-shifting that have been recorded. So the first one is that when they transform into like an old man muttering to himself, like on a bridge near the water. And, the reason why they say that is that there was supposedly back in the day, someone came across they called him a wizened old man, and he was like muttering and sewing something in his lap, and they hit him over the head, and he shape-shifted back into his horse form. And that's why they think that the Kelpie changes into a old man. And some also say that they change into a handsome man to try to woo pretty women who are around the rivers and things like that. There was a story that a woman was trying to be wooed by this handsome young man, and she took off his cross, which his silver cross from around his neck, which kind of was his bridle as a horse, and it made him shift back into his horse form. And so that's how that person thinks that their shifting is into a handsome man. Generally, almost all of the shifting stories are male, and that Kelpies are mostly male. There's only a handful, maybe one or two stories that I found that they shifted into a woman. And then lastly, you can capture a Kelpie if you put on a halter on the horse with the sign of the cross on it, so that you can harness its power to help you build buildings and like move things, because they're really powerful. If you are able to get to the horse, have bridles and saddles, if you take the bridle and saddle off of the horse, it ends up making them not magical anymore, and they aren't able to shapeshift. They aren't able to do any of the bad things that they were doing. It removes their powers. And the only way that you can kill a Kelpie is kind of like you would kill a werewolf, and it's by a silver bullet. It's the only way you can kill a Kelpie.
All I could imagine, Kathryn, was when you talked about them shape-shifting into humans, I was like, oh Lord, here comes another smut book.
Whoa, I bet you there is. So when I was researching it, I was surprised to see that they were mostly males, because I imagine most aquatic like shapeshifters
sirens.
being like sirens. Yeah, like women.
Yeah.
Beautiful women. And the first picture that I saw, it did look like a mermaid, but like with hooves. And so like it
Kinky.
looked like a girl, but almost all of the stories of the shapeshifter was male, which I thought was weird. I thought the Kelpies were kind of beautiful, honestly. I didn't actually feel scared by them at all, even though supposedly they do kill you. And the reason why they're technically an urban legend is I think that the story came about to keep kids away from like the river beds and like the dangerous streams and waters and whatever, so they don't die. Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Even though I'm a little scared.
All right, well, spooky babes. Next week is our crime movie week, and we're doing A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively.
Woo!
Woo! As long as we can find it streamable and or we both are interested in renting it.
Oh.
If it's been changed, that means that we're too poor to rent a movie. Hayley, do you have anything to tell the spooky babes before we go?
Read some smut.
Yeah, you know what? Go read a smut book. If you need any recommendations, our DMs are always open. I got you. If you need any book recommendations, I'm always here for you. And you know what? You're important and you're valid and you matter to us. And we care about you very much. And we are very happy that you joined us today. And we will see you
in your nightmares.